Good morning, Tuesday, December 12th. Today we're talking about Ford pumping the brakes, dealers pumping the brakes, and teens not pumping the brakes. Teens haven't been known to pump the brakes. In case you've never met one.
An all gas, no brake situation.
It would be really interesting to be able to go back and get teenage Paul and teenage Kyle together and see how that interaction went. I have no idea what you were like as a teenager.
All right, I'll give you the simple stuff from like when you become a teenager, 13 to we'll call it 15, which is sophomore year. You'd have found me in a corner, not talking to anybody. I know, completely surprising. Like you would have never actually interacted with me.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, junior year, you would have come back to high school and you'd have been like, who's this Kyle kid that all of a sudden started coming to our school? So,
oh my gosh. Did you play music in high school?
No, actually, I did not learn how to play the guitar until my junior year in high school.
Gotcha.
So
Interesting.
I was not a musician at my early age. So.
Well, high school, I was still pretty much very personable. I was very personable. And like in my sophomore year is when I found the guitar, and that from then on, it was like bands and concerts and, getting my driver's license.
I never had the garage band thing.
Well, we didn't have a garage, but we had a garage band.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, it was Nirvana. I was in high school in the mid 90s. So it was like Stone Temple Pilots, but all that stuff. Either way, we're going to put on a little show of our own though.
Hey,
because the whole trip has been back from high school to now to how can we put on shows for people?
That's all.
So on our third annual year-end extravaganza is coming up quickly on December 21st. It is going to be an hour-ish of industry recap. Looking ahead, we're having a ton of guests come on the show. If you've seen any of the other two, you realize this is just a time to have a little fun, to hear, to learn a little bit, to get a little insight, and to really like just a little family time. Let's celebrate the people we're with. The live stream. It'll also be on YouTube and stuff like that. If you're
it's going to be so much.
If you're a YouTube person, but we really hope you can join us because it's kind of like our little year-end gift to the industry.
Yeah,
we'll call it that.
So much fun.
Tomorrow, what do we got going on? We got a fast-paced webinar tomorrow.
We got a really good webinar tomorrow. It's only 20, 25 minutes. We get in, get out. Make sure you get some information that can help you in the store. This one is with Upstart, and it's all about transforming car buying, the power of connected auto retailing. What I love about this is we have Karen Bird, the GM of Colonial VW and Subaru, along with Oksana Campbell, the dealer success manager for Upstart, kind of working together to talk through this. So it's a real practitioner talking about exactly what they're doing in the store, challenging and changing the consumer experience. So I can't wait to have this conversation for sure.
It's always good.
You should join. Go to ASOTU.com, scroll down just a little bit. You can't miss it.
Yes. It's always good when you hear what the dealer's doing on the front line. I think that's always what it is. Oh, we have a fun announcement. We're going to skip it for now. But Kyle and I have been asked to moderate a special dealer only thing at NADA this year. We'll talk about that another time. But for now, let's get into some news. Here we go. We're going to talk a little bit EV from the OEMs, what the dealers are saying on the front lines. So Ford is slashing its F-150 Lightning product in half in 2024 as the market demands and the EV narrative are rapidly shifting. So the new target is around 1,600 vehicles per week at the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Michigan. Here's how we found this out. Here's how. Jamie Butters put on a burglar costume. No, that's not how this happened. So basically, this is according to a supplier memo that was obtained by Automotive News. So the supplier rollback in the memo, Ford's like, hey, we're cutting production back. That's how we found this out. I'm sure Ford will have a statement on it soon. Ford delayed about $12 billion in EV investments and have adjusted their production targets even as November sales of the Lightning hit an all-time high. Meanwhile, of course, the production of their gas-powered F-150s in Michigan and Missouri remains stable across the board. No surprise there. And here's a quote from the Ford CFO John Lawler. This is what he said in October. He said, the narrative has taken over that EVs aren't growing. They're growing. It's just growing at a slower pace than the industry and, quite frankly, we expected.
Yeah, I think that's the dichotomy in the conversation right now. Like I hear a lot of people and a lot of news sources and a lot of citing, and we're about to get to what dealers have to say about it. But there's a lot of this, well, EVs, nobody wants an EV. And I think that it's
Mhm.
more not as many people want an EV as we expected would be the case at this point. Just the note that they had an uptick in sales in November for their all-time high of the Lightning sales shows, hey, this is still progressing up.
Mhm.
It's just not the big old, you know, exponential curve that maybe the manufacturers and the government were expecting at this point. So I wouldn't totally get out on EVs. It's just that there's a more measured approach coming from these OEMs. I mean,
You
cutting
mean
production in half? Whoa,
yeah, other than just the Lightning, though, they have other stuff.
that's true.
They have other stuff. But you mean to tell me that when the narrative on one side is everyone wants an EV, and then the narrative swings to the other side that no one wants the EV, that it might just be possible that
That it's
some
somewhere
people
in the
want an
middle.
EV? Unbelievable.
Something about measured approach, general
Oh,
things,
here we go. Speaking of measured approaches.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so let's hear what dealers have to say about this issue. This is from a Wall Street Journal article today, talking about what EV adoption is looking like from the front lines. And we're going to give you a series of quotes from some dealers and also a quote from Mary Barra, CEO of GM. First one is from, I don't have their first name. I think it's Steve Rochelle, La Rochelle. Basically, he is, or she, I don't know. I got this all messed up. I don't have it in the notes. Vice president of Sheehy Auto Sales said, we thought we could build.
Paul La Rochelle.
Paul La Rochelle. How could I forget that? We thought we could build 1 million of them and sell them, said Paul Rochelle, vice president at Sheehy Stores, which sells vehicles from a dozen different brands in Maryland, Virginia, and DC. Their EV day supply is currently 6 to 12 months. When obviously the gas is way lower. He continued, we have a steady number of clients that have attempted or flat out returned their car. So that's one dealer's perspective, right? Pretty big group too. Like they have a little experience. We're not talking about a little rock lot. Here's another one. This is from Mary Rice, dealer principal at Toyota of Greensboro in North Carolina. She says, I'm not hearing the consumer confidence in the technology. People aren't beating down the door to buy these things, and they have a different excuse. They all have a different excuse why they aren't buying. Rice continued, I start to think, maybe we should just all pump the brakes a little bit.
Maybe we should.
Final quote is from GM CEO Mary Barra. She says, although the rate of growth has slowed recently, EV demand is clearly moving in the right direction. She said this in a recent conference call with analysts. A combination of more affordable options and better charging infrastructure would help encourage more people to buy electric vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is so much fear in where and when am I going to charge this thing and how much do I have to pay to get into this new technology? It's like, I mean, you remember when OLED TVs came out? Nobody was running to Walmart to buy those things, but now it's just
that was a cost issue,
right?
That was a cost issue. I mean, I want an 8K TV. I don't want to spend $6,000 for it.
Right. I mean, you want an EV, you don't want to spend 90 grand for
That's
it.
a good point. That is a good point.
Also, you want an EV, you don't want to spend an extra $1,000 installing the thing. You want an EV, you don't want to have to wait 30 minutes to charge it in a non-standard location, like a gas station, which is on every corner. So there's these barriers to entry that will be overcome, I believe, in the next 3 to 5 years, but it just takes time.
Experience too. Like people saying like back to you want an EV, but if you live up where I do in upstate New York, you don't want to wake up, drive your car outside and realize that your gas tank or your fuel tank is a third less full just because it's cold out.
Yep. Well, and I think like things like the rental car companies continuing to commit to EVs.
Yeah.
If dealers even are providing EVs in their loaner fleets, could be an opportunity to get people into these vehicles and get them experiencing them. I would say if you have that, putting some sort of experience coordinator in that role where they can actually train the person on how to like prepare your customers for the next purchase 2, 3, 4 years down the line right now with their loaner fleet or with rental vehicles, so that way when they get in to actually own it, they have some level of education on actually driving the vehicle.
And experience. Yeah. It just takes like one time to realize like, oh, this is what it's all about. You know, I've driven a few. I don't own one. I have a lot of friends that are starting to own them. I wonder like, what is the first EV I'll own? Right. Like, because even me, like I'm pretty much a normal commuter, but I do take my share of like road trips, visiting clients, this and that. And it's the long range stuff. An EV would be great for me in my everyday life. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like the Kia EV9. I'm waiting to see. Well, I think I like it. I think I like it.
It looks nice, at least.
It looks nice, but the 350-mile range is just like, it's got to just be a little higher for me.
A little bit ticking.
Speaking of things that are ticking up.
Stop. Segue.
Time. Prepare to be surprised.
Here we go. According to a new Pew Research study, teens prefer YouTube to TikTok, as a growing number say they're on the platforms almost constantly. Approximately 90% of teens use YouTube on a regular basis, making it the most popular platform in the Pew Research Center survey, with TikTok second at 63%, Snapchat at 60%, Instagram at 59%. So a little tight race for number 2. So what we see is that the platforms are shifting. Actually, in 2014 and 2015, Facebook was used by over 70% of teens, and it's now down to 33%. Twitter has also seen a significant decline. Twitter renamed to X. This is the wild one. Nearly 1 in 5 teens report using YouTube and TikTok in combination, quote unquote, almost constantly. Ooh. A third of teens use at least one of the 5 sites.
Yeah, if you put them all together, it's a third of teens saying I use it almost constantly. So look, we could definitely get into the conversation of what is this doing to the teenage mind and all that. But I think the reality is there were a couple surprises in this. That's for a different podcast. But I think a few of the surprises for me, number one, that YouTube is that far above the other platforms. At first that shocked me, but then I thought of like the teens. I have 3 teenagers in my house, or 2 teens, 1 preteen, and they do use YouTube. Well, they don't have TikTok, so kind of not an apples to apples, but they are all in on these YouTube creators and YouTube ecosystems and the comment sections. It's actually very interactive. Yeah. And my oldest, my 17-year-old son, told me just last night we were having a conversation. He goes, you know what's really trending up is people are getting sick. There's so much polished content out there. People are actually starting to gravitate toward these very low production, real life people. And that makes a lot of sense. You see, I just saw another study about depression rates and all that coming out of COVID. Like, people are more depressed and feeling more lonely and more by themselves. It's because there's no more shared experience. The people out there doing real regular life and the people just having life on their phones. Big disparity there. I think we can all pay a little bit more attention to what content we're making as an industry and where we're putting it. Because I got to tell you, if you're trying to get teenagers that are getting their licenses and the young Gen Zers or the old Gen Zers, are you really working YouTube? Probably not.
Well, and here's the other thing is it's a signal that longer form content is actually coming back, right? Like, yes, there's YouTube Shorts, and that's extremely popular, but there is more desire to see longer form content that feels real. And so why not start to press into slightly longer form content as a dealership or dealer group? Because this is what always happens. The trend always is begun by the emerging generation. Whatever the digital trend is always, like, you think about 10 years ago, it was all, what are millennials doing? Well, that's what essentially everyone starts doing. Right now, it's what is Gen Z doing? What are the teenagers doing? That's going to be, over the next 2 to 3 years, it will be the macro trend. And so if you start to focus on what the trend is there, you'll be capturing the broader, more macro trend a little bit earlier than ever.
Beachfront property. Beachfront property. Got to get that first row, not the second row. Second row is okay. First row is better. Look, it's Tuesday. It's sunny in a lot of places. Get out there, sell some cars, serve some people. Check out the Year in Extravaganza. Go to our LinkedIn, ASOTU.